You're standing at the entrance of a cave. It's around 40,000 years ago, somewhere in what will eventually become southern France. The sun dropped an hour ago. Your fire is small. Small enough that the darkness just beyond the tree line is absolute and total. You can hear the others breathing behind you. You can hear the wind moving through the valley below. And then you hear something else. It's not a growl exactly. It's lower than that. It's the kind of sound that doesn't hit your ears so much as your chest, your stomach. Something deep and biological that predates every single thought you've ever had. Your body already knows what it is before your brain catches up. And your body has one very clear opinion about what happens next. The cave lion, Panthera spelaea, is not the lion you picture when you close your eyes. Forget the documentaries. Forget the savannah. The animal standing somewhere in that darkness is roughly 10 to 12 feet long, weighs close to 700 pounds, and has been the apex predator of this continent for hundreds of thousands of years. It is faster than you. It is stronger than you by a margin that isn't even interesting to calculate. And unlike the lions alive today, it has been sharing cave systems with your species long enough to have zero fear of you whatsoever. Here's the thing nobody tells you about prehistoric humans and large predators. We tend to imagine those encounters as pure terror, a helpless proto-human stumbling backward into the dark, completely at the mercy of something bigger and meaner. That's the comfortable story, because it keeps our ancestors safely primitive, safely below us on some imagined ladder of capability. But the archaeological record doesn't quite support that picture, and once you look at what the evidence actually shows, the whole story gets genuinely strange. Because here's what paleontologists have found in those caves. Not just the bones of humans killed by lions, not just the scratch marks and the evidence of predation. They've found something else entirely. Something that raises a question so uncomfortable, it tends to get buried in academic footnotes rather than discussed openly. The question is this: what if the first time a human being encountered a cave lion face to face, it wasn't entirely an accident? And what if what happened next wasn't what either of them expected? The bones don't lie, but they do keep secrets. And for a long time, the secret buried inside the cave lion evidence was hiding in plain sight. When paleontologists first started excavating the great cave systems of Europe, Chauvet, Lascaux, Altamira, they expected to find what you'd expect: evidence of predation, carnage, the one-sided story of an animal at the top of the food chain doing what apex predators do. And they found some of that. Scattered human remains with puncture marks consistent with large feline jaws, claw striations on bone, the unmistakable signature of something being eaten. But they also found something that didn't fit the narrative at all. They found cave lion remains that had been processed by human hands. Bones with cut marks, not bite marks, cut marks. The kind left by stone tools when you're deliberately removing hide from a carcass. Teeth and claws that had been separated from the skeleton with clear intentionality. The kind of careful, methodical work you don't do in a panic, and you don't do by accident. At a site in Germany called Hohlefels, researchers found evidence suggesting cave lions were not just encountered by the humans who sheltered nearby. They were hunted, deliberately, repeatedly. Stop and sit with that for a second. These were not people with metal weapons. They did not have horses. They did not have projectile technology sophisticated enough to drop a 700-pound predator from a safe distance. What they had were wooden spears, stone blades, and each other. And apparently, that was enough. Not every time, not without cost, but enough times that it became a pattern. Enough times to leave a mark in the archaeological record that researchers are still untangling today. And then there's the art. The cave paintings of Chauvet, some of the oldest figurative art ever discovered, dating back roughly 36,000 years, feature cave lions more than almost any other animal. Not in the background, not as scenery. Front and center, rendered with a level of anatomical precision and emotional intensity that stops people cold when they see it for the first time. These weren't warning signs. They weren't simple records of danger. The lions are depicted in motion, in social groups, with individual personality visible in the line work. Whoever painted them had spent serious time watching cave lions up close. Which means the relationship between early humans and cave lions was not simply predator and prey. It was something far more complicated, far more mutual, and far more strange than we were ever taught to imagine. Here is what happens to your body in the first 3 seconds. Your amygdala fires before your conscious mind has processed a single detail. Adrenaline hits your bloodstream at a rate your body will not achieve again until the next genuine threat to your life. Your pupils dilate. Your hearing sharpens to a degree that would seem almost supernatural if you weren't too terrified to notice. Your digestive system shuts down completely because evolution has correctly calculated that digesting your last meal is not the priority right now. Every non-essential system goes offline. Every essential one goes to maximum. This is not a metaphor. This is not ancient history. This is the same neurological cascade happening in your body right now every time a car cuts you off on the highway or a door slams unexpectedly in a quiet house. The hardware hasn't changed. The software is identical. You are running the same threat response program that the person at the cave entrance was running 40,000 years ago. And the reason you're running it is almost certainly because they survived long enough to pass it down to you. But here's where it gets genuinely interesting. Fear is only half the story. Neuroscientists studying extreme threat responses in humans have identified something that doesn't show up in the simple fight or flight model most of us learned in school. In situations of acute, inescapable danger, the kind where running is not obviously an option and freezing is death, the human brain does something remarkable. It shifts into a state of hyper-focused social processing. You become acutely, almost painfully aware of the other humans around you, their body language, their breathing, the direction of their eyes. Your brain is not just assessing the threat, it is simultaneously and automatically calculating the group response, reading the room at a speed no conscious thought could match, building a shared situational map in real time with every person standing next to you. Researchers believe this mechanism, this sudden, crisis-driven social synchronization, may be one of the key engines behind some of the most distinctly human cognitive developments we know of. Language almost certainly accelerated under exactly this kind of pressure. You need to communicate faster than gesture allows when something that weighs 700 pounds is deciding whether you're worth the effort. The researchers who study the intersection of predator pressure and human cognitive evolution have a phrase for it that sounds almost too clean, but holds up under scrutiny. Being hunted made us smarter. Not just individually smarter, collectively smarter. The kind of intelligence that lives between people rather than inside any single skull. And the cave lion, without any intention whatsoever, may have been one of its primary architects. The cave lion went extinct approximately 13,000 years ago. The precise reasons are still debated. Climate shift, the disappearance of the megafauna it depended on, the slow, relentless pressure of a human population that was getting better at exactly the kind of coordinated hunting described in the previous 1,200 words. Most likely, all of it at once. The last ones died somewhere in the cold of a Europe that was warming too fast for the ecosystem they needed, and the world moved on without them. But here is what did not go extinct. Every neurological pattern forged in those encounters is still running inside you right now. The amygdala response that fires before conscious thought. The hypersocial awareness that activates under genuine threat. The instinct to read the faces of the people next to you before you read the situation itself. The way a sudden sound in darkness stops your breath for exactly 1/2 second before anything else happens. None of that was installed by modern life. None of that came from traffic or deadlines or the particular stress of reading bad news on a small glowing screen at midnight. That architecture is ancient. It was stress tested against something that weighed 700 pounds and had no particular reason to let you walk away. There is a cave painting in Chauvet that researchers keep coming back to. 2 cave lions, rendered in charcoal with a confidence and intimacy that only comes from long observation. Their heads turned toward each other in what looks unmistakably like a moment of connection. The human who painted that was not recording a warning. They were not marking territory or performing ritual in any way we'd recognize as purely functional. They were doing something else entirely. They were paying attention. They were saying, in the oldest language available to them, I have looked at this creature closely enough to see it clearly. I have survived that proximity, and I want you to know what I saw. That impulse to transform a terrifying experience into something communicable, something that could be passed forward, is not a small thing. It is arguably the thing. The entire architecture of human culture, storytelling, art, religion, science, every system we have ever built for making sense of a frightening and indifferent world runs on exactly that impulse. Look clearly. Survive the looking. Tell someone. The cave line is gone. The lesson it taught us, without meaning to, without any awareness that it was teaching anything at all, is still the operating system. You are reading this because your ancestors looked directly at the most frightening thing in their world and did not look away. That is not a small inheritance. That is everything.